Welcome to Money on Tap. Money on Tap, your personal finance headquarters, where we bring out the professionals' experience and some fun in what we call three-dimensional investing, utilizing insurance, brokerage, and fee-based planning. That's what we do on this show. We look at all sides of the issues, and we bring a fully independent planning perspective to the table.
Welcome back. You're listening to Money on Tap. You can reach us at 855-226-8551 or info@yourmoneyontap.com. Good to have you aboard today. My name is Seth Crossman, here with Ben Brayshaw and Dan Mickelin. Folks, today we have a show for you, and it is the price of uncertainty. And what does that mean, right? We're going to get into a lot of different perspective around this, but there's decisions that we make every day, and some of them are of the DIY variety, and some of them are more like, hey, let's onboard some professionals with us. That's a little teaser here for you, what we're going to be talking about today, and what the value of, some of those decisions that we might make a little differently today. If you are new to Money on Tap, well, first of all, welcome. Glad you're here. My name's Seth Crossman, and Ben and Dan and myself are all financial planners with Brayshaw Financial Group, where we talk about complete wealth management as independent financial planners. We love the opportunity to bring, an educated ear and experience into your life that's different in terms of finances and financial planning. We call that three-dimensional investing. And what we like to do here on this show with you is we like to have some fun. We like to bring up some current events or some things that we work through on a daily basis in our practice and, add a little different context, a little different flavor for you. And if you're joining us via podcast, we just want to thank you. The numbers lately have just been skyrocketing, and that's wonderful to see. If you're a subscriber or if you're just a podcast listener, thank you for the subscription. Thank you for the shares. Thank you for the likes and the listens, all that stuff. We've been challenging people to grab a couple podcasts. We're in a season, spring break. Maybe you've got kids and you're hitting the road. You got some window time. That's one of my favorite places to just grab some podcasts and listen up. It's a great way to get educated and familiar on different concepts that I just wouldn't otherwise have. Grab a couple. It's easy. Money on Tap. Download them. Take them for a run. Take them for a hike. Take them for a spin. Whatever it is. Share them with your friends. If you're online and you're checking us out either at LinkedIn or Facebook or, you name it, we're out there. We appreciate you being there with us too. We're going to get into what the show has for us today, and that's the price of uncertainty. But before we go down that road, it is time for Money in the News.
And first up is coming to us from CNN, from Chris Isidori. High egg prices send profits at the largest U.S. producer soaring more than 700%. The article itself, just the number, 700% really just jumped out at me. And, we've all kind of experienced the effects of inflation, the rising costs of just about everything, but in particular food costs. But eggs really stood out. There was a rarely noticeable increase in the price of eggs. There's no doubt about it.
Changes the idea of a bacon, egg, and cheese at McDonald's in my mind.
Yeah, cheap breakfast, right? It's just incredible to see some of these things, and that's one of those things when we've had all these shows talking about supply chains. It's like, these eggs are not getting shipped over from China. The supply chain on an egg is pretty short.
It's near us too. It's in Maine is our primary provider.
And, the article really kind of hones in on one provider of eggs, Cal-Maine Foods. A little sad to see a fellow New England institution gouging us like this, but they reported a profit surge, 718% last quarter because of the sharply increased egg prices. In comparing year over year, the average cost of a dozen eggs rose from $161 to $330, which is absolutely incredible. And the total number of eggs sold only went up 1%, but its overall revenue rose 109% to almost $1 billion, $997.5 million. So, we talked about inflation and gas prices and things. Inflation's running at 6, 8, 9%, depends what you're looking at and over what period of time. And we've seen prices of gas almost double and then kind of retreat a little bit here. But 718% surge in profit is just way beyond anything that could truly be tied to what their market conditions must be.
I just can't believe we're talking about eggs. This is eggs, guys.
I am holding back on every turn of this, and I just I'm like, nope, can't say that. Nope, can't say that.
The jump in their revenue, it went from $39 million a year ago. Their net revenue went from $39.5 million. I'll at least have to give you that. Let's say $40 million revenue. This year, net revenue was $323 million. I mean, this is one happy egg farmer. I mean, it's funny. I don't know if I told. I mean, I just bought a chicken coop, which is hilarious. My daughter's wanted chickens forever. My wife's like, time to get the chicken coop. I did the math. Okay, this is how nerdy I am. I did the math. It was 4,800 eggs we'd have to consume to break even on the cost of the chicken coop. Now, for people who don't know me, I grew up on a farm, and we had lots of chickens, and I hate chickens. I mean, I hate chickens. We're going to have chickens. 4,809, I think it was, eggs to break even on the cost of the coop and everything else. Because you know what? I know exactly how miserable it is to take care of chickens. But, I mean, they're not a ton of work, but it's like if you get a dog and your daughter promises you to take care of the dog, in a month you'll be feeding the dog and watering the dog and walking the dog. That's just the way it is, right? So now I got chicken life. I have so much respect. I mean, I grew up on a farm. We had the largest pig in the East Coast at one point, 4-H. And, I mean, we have all sorts of history in farming, right? But getting up in the morning at 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning to break, the ice out of the bucket so the animals can drink water, it is not a fun experience, trust me. And then you're usually in your pajamas with your boots on. I mean, we all know, if you're listening, you understand what I'm talking about. We're all speaking the same language. So for me to have to figure out how to consume 4,800 eggs, and that doesn't cover the feed, the time, the effort. Now, I did take the cost of the most expensive set of eggs out there, homegrown whatever eggs. So it's not the $10 egg batch, but I was doing the math on the chicken coop. I was saying, like, this is expensive. Oh, and then I talked to the chicken coop guy when I was ordering the thing. He's backed up till June. I figured out that what he was charging for chicken coops on the average cost, he had $150,000 worth of chicken coops to build. I was doing all the math. I'm thinking to myself, this guy is like in chicken coop mania. So anyways, another business you can be in. You make $150,000 in 5 months building chicken coops.
That's incredible. I mean, the whole chicken economy is just really blowing up, isn't it?
Blowing my mind. I didn't even know you had this article.
How long is it going to last? I love the perspective here that Senator Elizabeth Warren has. That she's really taking it to the chicken farmer here, saying that your corporate greed is just out of control, and you're stealing money from the people that are trying to feed their families, and Ben, as you're describing how underwater you got to go to just have a few chickens and how many eggs you got to eat before you get to a break even, I wonder if Senator Warren actually went out and did the math on that one first to see what their overhead looks like. And yes, they have a profitable month, but if you look at the chart, they're up 4% for the year. I have no problem here with the chicken farmer finally getting a couple of months of decent revenue coming in the door, so maybe they can re-up on the chickens that they have to, or I don't know if you've ever been to a chicken farm and walked through some of those facilities. I would beg them to get a new farm or beg them to get a new barn or something, because it is not pleasant in my eyes. And I'm an ex-chicken farmer as well. I'm a recovering chicken farmer. I went from, honey, will you build me a chicken coop? Which I did. I got those plans off of YouTube and built it for my sweetheart for her birthday, and it went from being able to have 15 chickens to we had well over 70 chickens. Man, I had my hands full. So I'm with you, Ben.
Oh yeah,
bless you.
My chicken coop is. I mean, I'm not building the chicken coop. Like, it's just not even.
Oh, not even. You don't know.
You're a good man. You're a good guy, Seth. But I literally had the guy putting, whatever it is, roll out whatever on the bottom of the chicken coop so I could spray it out. And I mean, I'm like,
got a Rolls Royce of chicken coops over there.
Yeah, I mean, this thing is ready to clean. I mean, I know I'm going to be stuck with this thing, so I'm thinking to myself, the extra $150 to have them add that to the bottom of it. It's going to make my life that much easier.
Sounds like you need like the automatic culling machine.
Oh, no, I actually got them for another $100. I got the automatic feeder in there too. So,
This is the Cadillac of coops here, folks. That's for sure.
That's what happens when you can't stand raising animals.
Well, hey, folks, it wouldn't be a week in personal finance here at Money on Tap if we weren't going to bring to you some more bank failures. Aren't as uncommon as you think, by Ivana Pino. And we thank you very much for this. Here's what happens when a bank fails and how to know if your money is safe. So, Silicon Valley Bank, folks. Maybe you've heard of it, maybe you haven't, but it's out there. A little bit of news lately. It's been dominating the headlines, as a matter of fact, where in recent weeks it became the second largest bank collapse in U.S. history, followed shortly after that by a New York-based Signature Bank with more than $110 billion in assets. That is the third largest bank failure in U.S. history. It's interesting. Right? It's an interesting world that we're in when we're looking at some big money out there going under. And we've walked through I thought we did a couple of really great shows, or one specifically around the why and the how. If you want to have a listen to that and understand more, go ahead back. This is just a very interesting article that we have here where we're looking at other banks stepping in, First Citizens Bank stepping in, and really taking over the situation and basically buying up bad debt is what it looks like for them, and what a slim margin and how possibly unprofitable of a business venture this is for them.
It was interesting to see kind of, what happens when they fail and to read about that a little bit. And in this instance, the First Citizens stepped in and they've basically purchased all the assets, all the debts, and have former depositors and people money at Silicon Valley Savings Bank kind of up and running. So the debit cards work, all the locations work, they have access to funds. But when the FDIC straight takes over, they have those same protections in place, but it can be a little bit more of a process and a little bit more time before you really get access to your money. This is the kind of the word of wisdom here is understanding how the FDIC works. There are websites out there you can check and verify that your bank, in fact, does have FDIC, and just understanding the process, and particularly for any dollars that are over the insured limit, what kind of risk that represents to you. And this is something we've been talking to our clients about here for a number of weeks, and even going back before the bank failures of the way that we have the ability to insure larger amounts of cash inside of brokerage accounts is something to really consider if you keep a lot of cash on hand at the bank.
Yeah, I think, I think what a lot of people don't think about is the fact that, a bank failure and the defining of a bank failure is, and there can be a run on the bank anywhere. I mean, it's the ability for the bank to meet its financial obligations. And I honestly would wager there's a ton of banks out there that just aren't having the run. I mean, if everyone walks in the bank and says, I want all my money, can the bank provide it? And if they can't provide it in the time people are asking for it, you have a run on the bank, and then that's when the government steps in and says, "Hey, listen, this is what we got. This is the problem." So, I mean, I don't think that this is. I mean, I'm scared this isn't the end. I mean, I think I think the Fed's not really being. I just don't think the Fed's being really fully transparent. It's truthful comes to mind, but I don't know that that's fair because I don't know that for sure. But they talked about inflation being transient, right? And we all kind of knew that inflation wasn't really transient. I mean, we've joked about it on the show, we joked about it on the time, and the only thing we joked around about the fact the only thing transient about the Fed is that their opinion, right? So, but they keep talking about they're pretty much coming to a close on raising rates, might do it one more time, and so forth. I don't think that that's really true. I'm really concerned that we're dealing with more of that, because I think if they went out and came out and said, hey, listen, we're going to raise rates 2 more times, 5 more times, whatever, all of these old obligations are going to, as rates go up, these old bonds become worth less, and these banks have more and more trouble. So, I mean, and then there's new money coming in and they're buying new bonds. So hopefully they're offsetting some of that liability and that paper money loss. But I think there's more to come. I really do. And I think we're going to see more rate increases than they're saying.
Yeah, and a lot of this goes back to the kind of investment philosophy of the banks that you partner with, where you choose to do your business and what do they have going on behind the scenes. Because every bank takes in money and it doesn't go straight into a vault and wait for you to come collect it. We all know that. That money gets put back out in the street and invested in various means. And, how the banks perform in their own investment portfolio is important to you. Not that you necessarily share in the benefit of that all the time, but you share in the risk of it. So being aware of those things is important to understand. And choosing banks that are in some form or fashion less likely to find themselves in a risky environment, like those that invest in tech startups in Silicon Valley, it's kind of buyer beware, and it'd be a great thing for you to understand.
And just to clarify that too, I mean, if people take out their money from the bank, they got to put it somewhere. So I don't think people are going to be taking out billions and billions of dollars and putting it in cash in their office or home,
No.
Right? So they're moving it to another bank, so those are the types of things that I think that's why you're speaking to that story. And that's important, is to understand the banks you're putting in and diversify. And, we have up to $5 million of FDIC coverage for husband and wife, and $2.5 million, which is 10 times a standard bank, of FDIC coverage at our clearinghouse. So
there's a lot of question around credit unions too, and credit unions don't have FDIC insurance, but they have something very, very similar. So you still have the same protection limits that are backed up by a federal institution there as well.
Amazon, thank you. Reportedly considering purchase of AMC Entertainment. Eric Ravel. We are looking at this right now, and I'm seriously considering right now buying AMC Entertainment. I don't know if that's something that you guys knew about or not, but
it'd be a great platform for the show.
It would. It would help people tremendously. They'd be sitting there and looking at whether or not to buy the small or the supersized package of popcorn and sodas and everything else, and they'd look at the value of it and be like, "Yeah, that was a good money on tap decision for us to come here and spend this money today." Folks, yeah, it does make sense for Amazon to put this out there and take a look at buying it at AMC. AMC has been, it's been a Wall Street darling, or that's an old school term that we used to use when looking at the stock market, folks. If you don't know what that means, that those were stocks that just would shoot through the roof or would trade at values that didn't make sense. And AMC was one of those that we now call a meme stock. That bunch of people jumped on the bandwagon in the COVID period and bought the heck out of this, and up it went, and then down it came. So it's at a value now where Amazon is seriously considering, I guess, possibly buying this. And it's debatable, but what would they do with it? Yeah, they'd go ahead and, while you're sitting in the movie theater and you're watching all the new movies that are coming out, they'd have an opportunity to influence you to go and watch one of the Amazon movies or one of the Amazon productions that they have. They're paying for eyeballs, right? You just have captive audiences.
Yeah. I think, for all our listeners, Seth was joking about buying AMC, which I think is hilarious. But, when you think about Amazon and AMC, Dan and I were talking about this pre-show, like the idea of it going from, because AMC stands for American Multi-Cinema, being the Amazon multi-cinema, I could see them seeing all of this coming together pretty nicely in their mind. Now, both organizations refuse to even make comment to this, so it's kind of interesting to see, what's going to happen here. But yeah, what AMC, didn't they buy they bought a gold mine, right?
Yeah,
a gold mine or a mineral mine? I don't know,
some kind of mining,
some sort of mining thing with all the excess cash that they made from selling more shares at. What was it, like $50 a share? I mean, things trading at $4 or $5. It's crazy. So, they raised capital. Instead of going to a bank and borrowing, they sold their own stock on the market for ridiculous dollars during this run-up in the GameStop meme conversation of stocks.
Yeah, the market cap during this whole COVID frenzy went from around 2.67, so somewhere between 2 and 3 billion. That's where it's at now, and that's similar to where it was before. But it shot up to 23 billion, at the peak of this, which is, what that means is the combined value of all their publicly traded stock. And so, and like most companies, they held a bunch of their own stock, and the CEO said, he's one of the few that came out right and just said, this is insane. This company's not worth that much. We will sell shares and diversify and reinvest. So,
and they diversified into a mine.
Yeah, maybe
that's what Amazon wants. Maybe they want the mine.
Yeah, It's interesting to see Amazon too, which started as, obviously a strictly internet sales outlet, but they're buying more and more brick and mortar. They're buying up physical buildings, which was really against the model, where they
Whole
initially
Foods.
began.
Yeah, the whole thing.
The Washington Post, and looking at AMC, they supposedly Bezos has a bid out for the Washington Commanders, the NFL team. So, speaking of diversification, Amazon is really kind of networking out there and trying different things.
Oh, flying into space too.
Another one, another good one.
Yeah, I'm stuck on the chart here. I'm like, no. I don't think I'm buying. All right, folks, that's going to do it for us on Money in the News. You're listening to Money on Tap. You can reach us at 855-226-8551 or info@yourmoneyontap.com. Thank you for the downloads. Thank you for the subscribing. And thank you for the listens out there in the podcast world. If you haven't checked us out, go do it. We're going to take a break. Flip open like you've got a flip phone still, folks. That's my brain today. Take a look on your phone, go to your podcast venue, and subscribe while we take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Call us today at 855-226-8551 and get your free consultation with Ben Brayshaw or Seth Crossman or any one of our partners and find out what's going on in your plan, your estate plan, your financial plan, or what you're planning at all, if nothing. Get it fixed, get it right, get it done today. Give us a call at 855-226-8551.
We appreciate you listening to Money on Tap with Ben, Seth, and Dan. You can contact us at 855-226-8551 or email us at info@yourmoneyontap.com. And now, more of this week's program.
Welcome back. You're listening to Money on Tap. You can reach us at 855-226-8551 or info@yourmoneyontap.com. We are talking about the price of uncertainty today. This is a very interesting conversation that we get to have. And it comes to us kind of in many different forms. And the typical way that we get asked, like the question of, hey, how do you get paid, right? Is we talked about this last week. There's several different ways that financial service professionals get paid, and there's one that's basically like a transactional kind of a fee. Buy a stock and you charge a commission on purchasing the stock, or you buy an annuity. There's a commission on an annuity. There's commissions based off of products and sales, purchases or sales. Then there's your fee-based type of a planner, and the number that gets thrown out the most, or the example gets used the most, is somewhere around 1%, 2%, something along those lines for assets under management. So have $1 million that the advisor is managing, and they charge a percentage of those to manage those for you. And what are they doing inside of those? Where they're usually setting up different models of equities, or ETFs, or mutual funds, or stocks, or buying and selling, moving money, and trying to really manage that money for you. And then there's also a fee for service, which is it's another fee-based kind of a model that says, hey, I want like a financial plan, and you spend $3,000 or whatever the cost is for the financial plan. Great, here you go. Here's some services alongside of that. That's just kind of a package that's included. So it's a fee service model, but those are the ways that typically advisors get paid. So the question comes up for people that are really active in managing their own finances, which we encourage. I would say, we encourage everybody to be active in managing their own finances, because it's important. It's kind of important. If you want to have money and use money, then taking care of it is important, just like your body, right? You do all sorts of stuff that you take care of, and the more that you take care of it, usually the healthier it becomes. So do that. So the question is, well, if I'm doing this, and I've built up a portfolio, or I've had a 401k over at this job, and now I rolled it over into kind of a, whatever platform you want to manage it, and you're buying and selling your own stocks, or your own ETFs, your own mutual funds, bonds, whatever it is. And you're looking at, a very low fee, low cost model at that point, because guess what? You're the one that's doing it, especially if you're not paying yourself. And that would be interesting to ask yourself, how much are you worth? How much is your time worth? How much are you paying yourself to do that? That's a good question too. But typically people don't add that in. They're like, no, I'm not paying myself anything. And you want to charge me this amount of money to manage and do this the same thing I'm doing over here, right? And I'm doing it really good. And I don't think you can do it better. Well, that's good. I love the attitude. I love people bringing that to the table. Frankly, we all do. We're like, great, you're doing great. We want to have that kind of, self-esteem around ourselves, and all those things are wonderful. So, but the question is that really truly the value? Is that, as an advisor, all that we do? And if we do, right, we better do it better. We better do it better than you can do it, right? Because we're the professional, and I'm not going to pay for service that just doesn't make sense if I'm not getting something out of this relationship. And that is fair trade. That's equal exchange. But we want to level this for the conversation today, folks. We get it. We want to level the playing field a little bit here. All right? And what do we mean by that? We're going to bring in some different perspective. And I don't think really any of us are here to necessarily defend and say we do it better than you, or you should pay us because, or anything like that. I think it's just a really good, healthy conversation for us all to have, to try to just take a breath and understand what is included. And also, as you're having a conversation with us or future advisor X, Y, Z, A, B, C, whatever, understand what it is that they really, truly are offering, the value of financial planning and what kind of financial planning that is. Because not every advisor out there that's a financial planner is going to operate through all of these, I like this word, modalities. It's like all of a sudden I feel like I became like an acupuncturist or something. Like I've got modalities that I do over here. But you know what I mean, right? There's just different ways to operate. So anyways, this is a question, and this is our opportunity to step in and have some fun with you. Let's go.
Yeah, Seth, the big issue here is that somebody is like turned off in their head right now because they like trading their own stocks, and that's not what we're talking about at all. They're like trading their own investments. They're like looking at their account every day. They're like watching the market. Matter of fact, they might even want to be a broker. Like they might want to get into that, but that's not what financial planning is about.
You told me that too when I was over at the wirehouse and I was building models and trading stocks, and I loved it. It was hot. It was now. It was like, what are we doing today? Let's charge.
Talking about AMC and GameStop and what's going on, and look at the market. It's moving. It's exciting. It's gambling.
And you used to just kind of pat me on the back and say, hey, good for you, buddy. That's 5%. That's about 5% of what financial planning is.
It's so true. It's so true. And so, for all the people who are managing their own assets and so forth, working with Brayshaw Financial Group and engaging a financial planner doesn't mean you're giving up the reins. A lot of people feel that's what's going on. And I've actually had a lot of people who have at first were really engaged and eventually just did give up the reins because they're like, it's so much easier having you handle it. I've had that happen too. But I've had other people. I've totally had people who have come in the door, brought all their assets here, and then they pulled one account back and they put it because they liked looking at their phone, doing their thing, managing it themselves. I've had that happen too. I have no, and they're still clients on everything else. It's just there's a part of this that is exciting. I love what we do. I couldn't even envision doing anything else. I'm passionate about financial planning. I'm passionate about wealth management. I'm passionate about helping people and seeing success. Like that is really the story that I have just lived in, 20 plus years of this career. And, it's just, and I get why other people find it exciting, but again, it's only 5% of the entire spectrum of what we do. It's just so massive, all the intricacies of each detail happening. I think about you manage stocks, but that doesn't cover, risk management, it doesn't cover insurance, it doesn't cover, the tax issues that you might have, or making sure your CPA knows exactly how the structures work and tax loss harvesting and the concepts around that, or just tax planning in general. Forget retirement planning. We haven't even talked about, when are you going to hit 65? When do you take Social Security? How do all these things manipulate so you're not, going into a new tax bracket and having your Social Security clawed back on you. I mean, well, what about your portfolio management as an overall structure? Are you balancing your 401k with, the brokerage account that you have? When you start looking at all the different mutual funds, when every one of them owns Apple, are you 10% invested in one company? Those are things that people don't ask themselves. And then you start getting into, how is your cash flow and your net income going to look like 25 years from now when we're paying off $35 trillion of debt when we used to only be $22 trillion of debt 5 years ago? How are you going to deal with that? And then finally, you're in debt or your savings is low or you're concerned about a financial crisis or a family crisis. These things all come together. And so when that personal event happens, who's watching the stocks? Who's watching when SVB drops and you decided you thought that was a good purchase because Jim Cramer said it was? Right? Who's handling this? Who's the second set of eyes on the whole picture? It's such a big story that people think that just managing a couple stocks and I want to buy this and I want to buy that and this is good, and that is so far from what we really do each day. It's a part. It's a substantial part from the asset piece, but it is not the part of the story that really matters. It is a glimpse of the conversation.
Yeah, I think you did a great job there pointing out, what I can probably say a little succinctly is, right, a portfolio is not a plan, right? It's part of a plan. It's important, but we've often had people come in and, the do-it-yourselfers who want to compare returns, how they did in their 401k last year versus, XYZ portfolio or whatever the comparable investment in their view is. But the reality is that our services cover significantly more than just that. Right, we're there for when you can't be there, and we provide advice that's looking not just at what a stock did this week or last quarter, but how that projects into your future retirement income, like you spoke to, Ben. And the fact of the matter is, last week we talked about the kind of events in life that trigger that thought process of, is now the time when I need an advisor, whether that's you've accumulated a certain amount of wealth or you've had a marriage, gotten divorced, looking at a property, it's time for retirement. All of these events kind of trigger that thought process. But, what's interesting to note, again, is that only 35% of adults over 18 do work with an advisor. And there's a wide range of advisors out there. But, what that tells us is that, the investing community is just terribly underserved.
Yeah, that's scary. That's astronomical. And I think when you start looking at the amount of people who need help, they say it's 62% of people over 18 believe that their financial plans need improvement. So 2/3 of the world need help, is acknowledging needing help, which is like the first step, right? 100% of people need help, but 62% of people are acknowledging it, and only 35% of people are actually getting it.
Yeah, so what's holding back the other half there? Is the consideration of fees? Is it the thought that they don't have enough? Or is it they're more concerned with getting out of debt before they make the decision around investments? But the fact of the matter is we offer advice on all of that. We can help you with every part of that decision and bring you through that process to what's very likely to be a better outcome for you.
Great questions all the way around. And I think there's some answers. I think each and every one of us has our own story. We all have our, what's gotten us to this point right here. And first of all, I just want to acknowledge you for being in the room today and, stepping up to the plate and saying, what, I want to learn more. I want to know more. What Ben and Dan and Seth have been talking about. Yeah, I understand that my portfolio over here, as wonderful as I've done with it so far, is not answering the questions that they've been asking. How do I know how to mitigate my loss? For one, I love when we're taking a look at just portfolios is an easy place. Everybody kind of seems to revolve around this idea of portfolios. It seems like we're taking a long time to be kind of like hang out here. It's just because it's relatable. All right. We want to speak the same language, right? So guess what? What did we do? And now this is the thing that most people don't understand is that we bought U.S. Bank, right? Guess when we bought U.S. Bank? Right before SVB Bank did its little song and dance out there. So what did we do? Well, we had no way of seeing that. We still think that the U.S. Bank is a wonderful thing to own, but we took ownership of it. Are you willing to take ownership of what it is that you're doing? Because we do all day long. You're here. Good. That's a representation of who you are right now, taking ownership of what you don't understand is yours to become knowledgeable about.
Yeah, I think Seth, you make a really great point. We actually liked U.S. Bank. It seems to be reasonably sound, but we got out of banking entirely on that one. We just had one purchase. We sold J.P. Morgan. We had made money.
Not worth it.
Yeah,
not worth it.
Not
We're not
worth
hanging
the
out
risk
in the sector anymore.
But people don't realize that if a nuclear bomb goes off in Israel today, the stock market's going to crash no matter what you own. Right? So there's just things that you can't predict or you can understand or see. But in our diversified portfolios, we were out of financials for what? I don't know, 8-10 months. We had made a ton of money on financials and we sold out of it. And we just said, see ya. And we just started nipping at one stock, and it's just kind of interesting. And that was a totally different type of portfolio. And it's just, I just think about it and people don't realize that second set of eyes is so needed. Because in the midst of that whole event, we were taking action immediately, mitigated a ton of loss. And honestly, if you don't have that and you don't have that awareness and you're working and you're doing your regular daily job, you don't have anyone looking at your portfolio. You have nobody worried about you.
There's a cost that comes with that, this whole price of uncertainty around our financial well-being. In the study that we're looking at here that came to us from Northwestern Mutual does a great job of pointing out, for people that have faced these issues of uncertainty, which occurrences have they had at least once in the last month? Does it make them feel depressed? 36% of people responded yes. Does it keep them up at night? 34% of people responded yes. Is it impacting their relationship with their spouse and partner? 28% of people said so. Does it cause them to miss out on social events and opportunities? Does it create issues with friends and family? Does it make them physically ill? Does it affect their job performance? In each of these issues, over a quarter of the respondents are saying yes. So this degree of uncertainty affects us not only financially, but just our overall quality of life.
Yeah, I had heard a report from John Hancock at one point in time where they said that people spend, I think it was close to 20% of their day thinking about financial matters. And that if you did one review with your employees once a quarter, you would cut that in half. Just doing a financial review, like having a guy come in and talk about finances, it cuts off in half. I mean, just the work benefit of a day of that once a quarter was astronomically high. I think what a lot of people, and you might have a husband or a spouse who's managing money and they're going to argue with you this, that, and the other thing. It's not about them or their competency or their ability. I've met a lot of people a lot smarter than me, more capable than me, who that this isn't what they do. I was talking to a doctor the other day and I said, you know what? You could do what I do all day long if you just wanted to train, learn, and evaluate this industry and spend 25 years getting here. It's not your inability to do it. It's just that you're not in this business. And this business is moving too fast for you to say, hey, I'm just going to do it on a whim. And it's not that people haven't had success. I met people who are better traders that are unbelievable. It's crazy how good they are. But they don't have a second set of eyes. And I've had them come back to me and say, hey, what do you think about the stock? Because they really do ask questions like that. But they hire us to be planners. I had a colonel, he's passed away. He did unbelievable with his money. But he said, you know what? I'm interviewing financial planners for my wife. This was 15 plus years ago. And he has since passed. But he was interviewing planners for his wife because he wanted somebody to be the second set of eyes when he couldn't actually do it anymore.
Folks, you're listening to Money on Tap. You can reach us at 855-226-8551 or info@yourmoneyontap.com. We are talking about the price of uncertainty. Yes, we do not have a crystal ball or know what's going to happen tomorrow. Great illustrations here of the possible things that we take a look at as financial planners. And we're building some awareness for you so that as you're doing your own financial planning, or if you're bringing it to us to financial plan with you, we can start to work through some of the uncertainties that happen in life so that you can have confidence and take your next step forward. It's a freedom that we love watching our Our clients pass through that portal and experience for themselves, and we're here to share it with you today. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Ben, how often do we have somebody come into the office and they don't have a financial plan? And how critical is it for us to put the pieces together and make sure that their future, their retirement, is a successful experience? We talk about it all the time here at Money on Tap. If that's you, give us a call at 855-226-8551 or info@yourmoneyontap.com. Whether you have 100,000, 500,000, 5 million, look, folks, we have the right planner for you. Whether it's Ben or myself, Seth Crossman, we're here for you to get the plan together and make sure that that next step is right.
You can reach us at 855-226-8551 or email us at info@yourmoneyontap.com. And now, more Money on Tap with Ben, Seth, and Dan.
Welcome back. You are listening to Money on Tap, and you can reach us at 855-226-8551 or info@yourmoneyontap.com. We are talking about the price of uncertainty today, and here is something certain for you, that you can find us at any podcast venue out there. Go to Apple Podcast, go to iHeartRadio, wherever we are there, and you just search Money on Tap. And you subscribe. And oh, hey, since you subscribed, now you can go ahead and send us an email at info@yourmoneyontap.com, because we have something for you. We have a few things for you, but we just want to thank you for joining us and being with us. We appreciate you. And with that, we are going to get into some more of the topic here. And I'm looking at the clock. I'm like, oh my gosh, of course, we've got so much more to run down and get through. Harris Poll has given us some information out there for you to understand what are some of the other values that people are realizing as they're working with advisors. Okay, so the stability of your current housing situation. For people that do not work with an advisor, there's 62.7% of them. And work with an advisor, there's 80.8% of them. So that's basically 80.8% of people that work with an advisor are experiencing the stability of their current housing situation. That's almost 20% difference of working with an advisor. Another 20% are here of working with an advisor. The ability to manage your level of debt. Again, another 20%. Your ability to afford health care. Another 20% here, the stability of your employment situation and career. 21.6% difference here, your ability to achieve long-term financial security. I'm going to keep going, folks. There's more. There's 22.9% or 23%, the ability to plan for retirement. Whoa. Imagine that. Working with a financial planner or a retirement planner gives you nearly a 23% greater return. I mean, I look at these as returns. Your ability to pay for unplanned financial emergency, almost 25%. Overall certainty, 20.8%. Those are big numbers out there for you, for people that are realizing a difference in what it's like to not have a financial planning relationship on board for you, working through multiple. Those are. I'm actually kind of like, what in the world? How did this one pop in here? How are people experiencing the stability of your employer situation in their career? I don't know that I've gone to bat for anybody in that department yet, but we have done a lot of career planning here and a lot of helping people really kind of try to understand, what do I want to do? Do I want to retire early? Do I want a job change? Can I job change? What's that look like? And a lot of the times people just get really solid once we're having conversations, working through situations, to be themselves and to be confident in who they are. How many, can you raise your hand? I'm raising my hand. I love to be confident in who I am. I love to bring this guy to the table that says, I am who I am. I love myself. And you know what? We're moving forward. If you don't feel that in your gut right now, if that's just not who you feel like you are, let's connect it. Let's get that piece inside of you working today.
Yeah, I think what the survey does here is it highlights the value that the kind of advice that financial professionals can offer brings to people in ways you don't think of. Again, this isn't a measurable on an account statement. This is about how having these conversations, having these reviews, having a clear picture of what your financial outlook is impacts you at home, impacts your relationships, impacts your ability to work, impacts how you feel about housing and even the possibility of retiring. So lifting this weight off of you on a daily basis, just taking it off of your mind, or at least reducing the stress and the impact of that stress that it has on you, there's value in that. And that's something that just the counseling and the reviews and the process that we go through with people on a daily basis, it makes me feel good knowing that people are walking away feeling this much more certain about their future because they took the time to spend an hour with us.
Yeah, and I think, when you look at the long-term objectives, right, I mean, people don't want, cost to be the expensive piece. But the truth is if you don't do planning, the cost can be significantly more grave. We talk about banks, could you have sold sooner if you had a second set of eyes? Did you save taxes because you did, some sort of, tax planning and that you can't articulate financially in your pocket because you didn't spend it. You know what I mean? Like there's just a lot of things that you usually, it's not really quantifiable directly other than the fact that you're in a better off position than maybe you would have been for a lot of different reasons. Dan, think about the people that we've talked to I was just thinking of one widow that, we were talking to about, hey, getting some insurance for your children. What happens if she didn't have that advice? She never had a planner before, didn't know what to do, and someone said, just go sit with them, have some help, Imagine if she had passed away and just think about there was some medical issues there and concerns that actually popped up during the process. So, there's like the last thing you want to do is have something worse happen. And you can't quantify those things.
Yeah, that's the exercise in planning. We don't just sit down and say, okay, show me your day trade account and let's see how you're doing. We go through a process of examining someone's total picture, and it covers things like trusts and wills and life insurance on top of the, traded assets. Where's your 401k? How's your IRA doing? How about those after-tax accounts? That is all part of the picture, and it's all part of what we counsel people around. But, these are just elements of the overall picture of the desired outcome we're trying to lead you to, which is really about peace of mind and the ability to live your life and let us worry about those things.
You brought up an experience recently that one of our clients went through, and sometimes it's hard to really put into perspective in the moment how important this is or how people really feel knowing that you're there helping them. And what happened was they had basically an identity theft happen. Gave out, they're older and they were fooled into thinking it was their bank calling, and they gave out their banking information and their Social Security and all the rest of it. And so their daughter wound up taking them to the bank to try to fix this and resolve it. And they had the account in a trust. And because they didn't have the full copy of the trust there on file ready to hand over to the bank and, start a new account, the bank said, oh, well, we can't, start a new account for you in the trust. Well, guess what? They can. But anyways, that's besides the point. So that they told them that all they needed to do was start up another bank account as a joint bank account and then name a beneficiary on that as the trust. And having a conversation with them, I was like, I don't believe you. I don't believe that that's the truth. And I called them up on the phone and got the bank on the phone. Yeah, no, there's no beneficiary on the account, on a regular joint banking account. And they can open that account under the trust. And so guess what? Yeah, we did that. We took care of it. And that's, having somebody in your court, because that's a big deal. Not having those assets in the trust would wind up being a big deal. And another thing, I just love this. The other day, doing some planning with a client that was widowed. And at the end of the conversation, she just asked, am I going to be okay? And on many levels, she's fine. But she's gone through trauma, and she's gone through loss, and she has struggled with her decision-making through this process. And she needed to know that she was going to be okay. And the truth is she's okay.
Yeah.
She's fine.
Yeah, partnership is
is probably the theme in financial planning. And I think that's why, I've talked to people, I'm just like, you want to find somebody who, understands you, your situation, what you're trying to accomplish, that you feel connected with, and sometimes, for no reason, we meet with people and it's just not the right fit. It just isn't. And we know it, they know it, and it's just because it's a partnership. It really is. It's not. It's getting away from the 800 lines, because at the end of the day, you're going to talk to somebody at some big mutual fund company, and the next time you're going to talk to somebody else, and you're going to wish you talked to Joe again, and now you got Steve, and you're like, whatever. And
my blood pressure is already rising, Ben. Can we just change the subject?
Right, I know. And it's like, you got to hit 15 numbers to get through. It's like, you can have a relationship where you can walk into an office and meet with somebody and sit down at a conference room table and go over and have a cup of coffee and figure it out and make sure you're comfortable with what you got. I mean, that's the kind of control you want to have in your financial management, your whole financial well-being, your complete wealth management picture, which is what we do.
Yeah, I mean, advisors like us and the relationship we have and the partnership you have, like you said, Ben, that's a great way to put it, is, we know what's most important to you. And very rarely is that a number on a statement. It's something else. It's a vacation that they wanted to have. It's the ideal retirement. It's gifting. It's their grandkids. It's, education for children or loved ones. There's something out there that those numbers convert to that is what's the most important. And we understand that, and we work towards that goal with you. We're not just chasing a percentage.
Yeah, I did say this to one person one time, because I had done a plan, and I had spent a ton of time working on it and grueling through trying to make their financial retirement goals and the income they wanted work, and it was really stretching in a lot of different ways. And I'd spent a lot of time on it. And at the end of the presentation, it was kind of like I was super excited. I mean, I was like, we got it. Like, this is the numbers you wanted and everything else, and they weren't. And I said to them, I said, one of two things happened, because it doesn't matter to me. I don't care if you buy, a stock, a bond, a mutual fund, an annuity, CD. None of that makes any difference to me. Like, we can do business in all of those products and so forth. It doesn't matter. At the end of the day, I said one of two things: either you didn't tell me exactly what you needed well enough, or I just didn't understand. Like, I missed the story, or you missed communicating the story, because I thought this is what you wanted. Like, because there was no bias to it. And that's usually where the breakdown happens, and that's where the relationship struggle piece comes. It's not because you don't like somebody, but that's when we actually sat down, we dug in deeper, and we figured out there was an issue with a special needs child that they were more concerned of, and I didn't even know it was special needs, but they didn't want to label their child, and that was really what happened. And so, after I dug up this whole emotional thing, that's when we figured out why there was this big egg in the background that was just not there. So, not aware.
Yeah, you just reminded me of something. When I was back in my Wirehouse days, there was just some of the guys that they were just bond people. That's all they did, or they were only stock people in a certain specific, and that's fine. That was their whole thing. But I was so confused by that. I was like, well, what about the person that needs bonds or needs other things, or
That's why I love
how do you help them.
I mean, that's what's awesome about the partnership we have and our other partners here is we're not all the same. Like, you come from the Wirehouse, Dan, you come from the insurance planning, supervisory side. I mean, I come from the, straight up planning side. It's just like there's just no, we're not layering on top of each other. Like, our complexities come together well. So, I think any person who called in and met with any one of us, at least we have enough knowledge across the board to bring the whole picture together for the person, which is really what you want. You want base. That's why we have somebody who does taxes in our office. That's why you have an attorney in our office. Those are the types of things that you want available to you, to be able to say, hey, I've got this problem. Well, I'm not the expert on everything, but let me bring that person to the table.
All right, folks. Well, guess what? You are the most important person in the room when it comes to working with us here at Brayshaw Financial Group and Money on Tap. Thank you so much for joining us. This has been The Price of Uncertainty. You could reach us at 855-226-8551. And I hope you have confidence now that you've sat here and been through this with us. Confidence to go grab another podcast of Money on Tap. Grab some windshield time, some walk time, some whatever. Elevate the conversation of the room this week, folks. We really appreciate you being here. Again, if you subscribe, let us know. Send us a message at info@yourmoneyontap.com. We love to connect, and we cannot wait to be here with you next week. You've been listening to Money on Tap.
The views expressed are not necessarily the opinion of this radio station and should not be construed directly or indirectly as an offer to buy or sell any securities mentioned herein. Investing is subject to risks, including loss of principal invested. No strategy, product, material, or tool mentioned can assure a profit nor protect against loss. Please note that individual situations can vary. Therefore, the information, products, materials, or tools mentioned should be relied upon when coordinated with individual professional advice. Past performance is not a guarantee of future results. This show may be subsidized in whole or in part by a product sponsor or issuer. Securities and advisory services offered through SagePoint Financial Incorporated, member FINRA SIPC, and a registered investment advisor. All other services offered through Brayshaw Financial Group LLC are independent of SagePoint Financial. SagePoint Financial and Brayshaw Financial Group do not provide tax or legal advice. Main office is located at 116 South River Road, Bedford, New Hampshire, 03110, and can be reached at toll-free 855-226-8551.